At this time, I'd like to introduce the individuals of the Nash Community College Recruit Firefighter Training Academy, Class 072919. Please stand.
Ready, face, step.
Ready, face, step.
Please remain standing for the presentation of the colors by the Rocky Mountain Fire Department Honor Guard, followed by our invocation.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this time where we can come and celebrate accomplishments. We thank you for your love and your mercy and your grace. We thank you for safety as these cadets and firefighters went through 18 weeks of training, facing their fears, learning perseverance. We thank you for the safety that they enjoyed and that you provided for them, Lord. We just pray that you would be with them as they move forward into their careers now. Put that hedge of protection around them. We thank you for the support they receive from their friends and family. And Lord, we just pray now that you would bless our celebration. It's in Jesus' name. Amen. You may be seated.
Good evening. My name is Adam Gelo. I'm the Department Chair of Public and Safety Services for Nash Community College. And I welcome everybody here tonight for this firefighter graduation. And thank you for being here. I would like to recognize some people in attendance. Thank you to the fire departments that are here, that are represented here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we couldn't have an academy. We couldn't do what we do to train these young men if we didn't have the support of our agencies. They provide sometimes equipment, they provide employment for the graduating cadets, they provide instructors to the academy. So I want to welcome everybody here tonight from a fire department. How many firefighters do we have here tonight? I see a lot of uniforms and probably some that aren't on duty tonight. Thank you for being here. Also, family and friends. Lots of family and friends here. I can't tell you how difficult it is for these young men to complete what they need to complete for the academy. They'll tell you, and they'll be the first ones to tell you, that there was a lot more when they started, and there's a reason for that. These young men persevered, and I'm sure some of you family members heard all about it every day, what was going on, how it worked, who was in trouble, who wasn't, and you probably lived the academy with them. And I will tell you this, my background is law enforcement, so my academy experience was different, but it was similar. And they will need you each and every day after the academy. They will be asked to do things, they'll be exposed to things, they'll go on calls with tragedy and things that you can't imagine. And they will need your support each and every day after they get out of here and go to their respective departments. So thank you for being here. Thanks to the college administration and the Board of Trustees, obviously, for providing the facilities. If you get an opportunity, check our facilities out. We have very, very good public safety facilities, police, fire, rescue. Please come check those out. And as well as John Winstead, I want to thank John Winstead. It's a tough job to be a school director. I've been on the police side as a school director in my past, and I can tell you that anybody who thinks it's easy to be a school director, that's an 8 to 5 job, and that sounds like an easy gig, has never been a school director. Because you're at school at 6 in the morning getting things prepared before the cadets are here. You're taking them through PT. You're taking them through their day with their instructors, and you're the last one to leave at night. And probably 4 out of 5 nights, if not 5 out of 5 nights, you're on the telephone with instructors, you're on the telephone with cadets, getting them prepared for the next day, answering questions. It's a full-time plus a part-time job. So thanks to John for all the hard work putting the academy on. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication, I can promise you. And my last welcome and recognition goes to the graduating cadets. I get to see these guys one night during the academy. That's all I get to see them as far as in their actual training. Anybody heard any bad stories about crying and snot and getting gas? Yeah, I'm the bad guy that pulls the canister on the gas and gets some of that. So they did a good job, and it's a good team building exercise. But cadets, go out and serve your communities to the best of your abilities. We're all public safety. We all do the same thing. We serve the public, serve the communities, and demonstrate leadership. One thing I can say across the board, across public safety in general, we've got to go out and demonstrate leadership every day. Doesn't matter what we're doing, we're always in the public eye. And I know you're graduating tonight, and you're saying, well, good grief, the first day I go to work is going to be my first day at work. How can I demonstrate leadership on my first day? My training officer, they've got serving since pins. Training officer's been serving since 2010, and my chief, he's been serving since 1995, and my pin doesn't even have a year on it. It just says serving since breakfast. And how can I be a leader? But you can be a leader by showing up to work early, being ready for your shift, having your uniform squared away, not just the first day, but every day. Be ready for your duties, and you'll be ready for your career. Firefighters go in when others go out, and so you have a tough job. You have to be strong. Joshua 1:9 says, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Again, I welcome everyone to the Nash Community College. Thank you for being here to celebrate the achievements of these graduating firefighters.
Good evening. My name is Chandler Bryant, and I'm the Battalion Chief of Class 072919. Tonight, our guest speaker will be Kenneth Mullen. He is retired Chief of Rocky Mount Fire Department, where he served 32 years. His last 8, he was Chief. He retired from Rocky Mount in 2006. He's a member of Inglewood Baptist Church. He has received many rewards throughout his career, his most recent being in 2017, which was North Carolina Association of Fire Chiefs Lifetime Achievement Award. He is currently serving as co-chairman of Patient and Family Care Advisory Council at Nash Health Systems, member of the Nash County Board of Adjustments, and he is also a member of Nash UNC Hospice Advisory Board. Join me as we welcome Kenneth Mullen.
I remember that time years ago. First of all, Chandler, thank you for the introduction, but let me be very clear that anything that he read off about me or anything that I am or anything that I will do is a result of the love and the grace of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. It's an honor and privilege to speak to you tonight. I'm going to mention some names. Some of them will mean nothing to you. John Sykes, J.F. Lancaster, J.E. Hawkins, Nent Winstead, Bo Webb. Those were the people that shaped my career. They took a 20-year-old kid that all I knew about fire was I didn't know how to spell it. I knew it was red, I knew it was hot, and you put water on it. And they led me and encouraged me and guided me throughout my career, so I'm grateful for them. And you'll find mentors like that as well throughout your career. But it is an honor and privilege to speak to you tonight, and to the families represented here, I first of all want to say thank you for your support that you've provided for these graduates. But let me say, if you don't hear anything else I say tonight, I want you to hear this one thing, and this is the most important thing that you'll decide to do. And this is the correct order: God, family, and profession. So get that in the right order. Anything that you do, make sure that you have that right. Colossians 3:23-24 says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for man, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord that you're serving. So this class started with 14 recruits. For those of you who didn't know, they've had over 888 hours of instruction. They've had a number of tests, both written and practical, and they've had some life tests as well, probably. But we're here tonight to celebrate and recognize the achievements of these 7 graduates. But I'm going to give them one more test tonight. So I'm going to call on you in a few minutes to remember these 4 names. All right, you ready? Charles Ellis, Country Neal, Pete Perry, and Billy Soden. I'll say it again for you. Charles Ellis, Country Neal, Pete Perry, and Billy Soden. See, it's quite an accomplishment for these 7 because it's a tough profession that only a few can do. There's less than 0.5% of people in this country, in this population that we serve, that are firefighters. So those of us who have had a privilege and will have the privilege to serve in this profession both cherish and appreciate it, and appreciate the opportunity that we have, that we're given to be part of what I consider to be one of the greatest professions in the world. You see, when there are no confined space departments, there are no rescue departments, no swift water rescue departments, no hazardous material departments, and no high-level technical rescue departments. But there is the fire department. And whenever there's an emergency and you see a newscast, who do you see there? Now, I know you see police officers too, but every time you see law enforcement, you see the fire department there. Regardless of what's involved, you see the fire department. So to the graduates, and I'm going to speak more to them tonight than I am to the rest of the group that's here, but I want to ask you a question. How many of you have a sister? Okay. How many of you got an ugly sister? I don't see any hands raised. The point of that question is, who can talk about her? You can. So with my 46 years of association with the fire service, it allows me to talk about it and also to charge you with some very important truths. Each one of you, by completing this training, has stated that you want to be a firefighter. By accepting a position in the fire service, you become a guardian of the community. Whatever community you represent, you become a guardian of that. And with that comes a great deal of responsibility. With the completion of this training tonight, you now know a little bit of some of the responsibilities that you'll have, but they never end. You're responsible to continue your training, to gather knowledge, and you have a responsibility to maintain that training. It's never going to end. I'm going to say some things to you. Butt tip, fly bed, lock, stops, beam, rung, halyard, rope, tormentor pole. What is that? It's a ladder. That's stuck in my head for 46 years. I don't know what I do with it now, but it's stuck in my head because it's something that you learn and it stays with you over time. Complacency is not a good thing. It's not a good thing for you, it's not a good thing for your crew, and it's definitely not a good thing for your community. So remember, you are the only provider of these services I mentioned, in this community or in your community that you'll serve. Those people have no other choice. You are it. So they're totally dependent on you and your knowledge and you maintaining your training. They have nobody else to depend on for fire service, confined space, swift water, rescue, all those types of things. So it's a responsibility for you to know your position, and it's a responsibility for you to support your organization. It's also a responsibility to present yourself professionally in everything that you do. So you can't separate being a firefighter just while you're on duty. You're a firefighter for life if you choose to do that. So I'm going to speak to you very briefly tonight about two things. They both start with a P, so you can remember this: professionalism and passion. A story I'll tell you, we used to do something called home inspections every October. And we went out, we'd knock on doors. And we had a little speech we'd do. We'd say, "Hi, I'm from the Rocky Mountain Fire Department. We're here to do a home inspection of your home to point out any fire hazards you may have. It's free of charge, and it's a courtesy that we offer to the community." Most people would let us in. We'd do a home inspection, point out any fire hazards. We had a young firefighter one day. We kind of pushed him out to the front. We said, "Okay, it's your turn. You've heard a half a dozen of these little speeches, and we want you to do it." So he knocks on the door. When he knocks on the door, a young lady comes to the door, a very attractive young lady. And he says, "I am the Rocky Mountain Fire Department." And we laughed at that. But the truth is, you are the Rocky Mountain Fire Department, or you are whichever department you go to work for. And you need to always remember that. So if I had to put a title on this thing I'm talking to you about tonight, I would call it "You Are." You are no longer just an individual working for an employee. You're one person among many who represent a profession that is steeped in traditions of service, sacrifice, and selflessness. My former chief, at our 100-year anniversary, put a saying on the back of a belt buckle. Some of you in this room may have one. I'm going to use those words that he used, but I'm going to add a little to it. It says, "You are now part of a fraternity that is tested and tried, perseverance our virtue, genuine concern our mark, love for humanity our creed. You're responsible to continue these traditions, this camaraderie and mission to protect lives and save property throughout your career." Listen very carefully to what I'm about to say to you. If you do something stupid, the headline in the local newspaper reads, "Rocky Mountain Firefighter," and whatever that action was. And then your name appears down in the column, in the small print. An individual's action, your actions, can damage the entire organization. So you need to take pride in whichever the organization you're working for and make sure you do all you can to make it stand out. You're part of a profession that serves other people at a time that may be the worst possible time in their life, and to serve as an honor and a privilege. You are responsible to protect that. I'm going to read a creed to you. It's called a Firefighter's Creed. I am proud to be a firefighter. I revere that long line of expert firefighters who, by their devotion to duty and sacrifice of self, have made it possible for me to be a member of a service honored and respected in good times and bad throughout the world. I never, by word or deed, will bring reproach upon the fair name of the fire service, nor permit others to do so unchallenged. I will cheerfully and willingly obey all lawful orders. I will always be on time to relieve, and shall endeavor to do more rather than less than my share. I will always be at my station, alert and attending to my duties. I shall, so far as I am able, bring to my seniors solutions and not problems. I shall live joyously, but always with due regard for the rights and privileges of others. I shall endeavor to be a model citizen in the community in which I live, and I shall give my life freely to rescue those in peril with God's help. I shall endeavor to be one of His noblest workers. Understand this. If there ever comes a day that you realize this is not the career you want, leave. See, people can see in you what you really enjoy doing. In a court of law, if there's a trial, there's evidence to convict or acquit. And if there was a trial, is there enough evidence to convict you of who you say you are? And in this case, a firefighter. And the answer is simple. It's either yes or no. Jesus said in Matthew 5:37, let your yes be yes and your no, no. That anything else comes from the evil one. So it's a simple answer, yes or no. Are you a firefighter and all it represents or not? You can't say you're one thing and live another, because hypocrite is the word that's used for that. Do not allow this job. You'll have a lot of time off when you get on shift, but do not allow the fire service to become your part-time job. Those people that I mentioned in the very beginning, Chief Sykes, Nip Winstead, Bo Webb, J.F. Lancaster, see, they all had a career in the fire service, and they all had a part-time career, but they knew how to separate those. So it's very important that you learn to do that. See, our presence alone doesn't make the organization better. It's what we do while we're there that makes a difference. So your legacy begins to be written on day one. So understand your individual roles. You are not responsible for the chief's job. Do you know when I knew the most about being a fire chief? Before I was one. Because you always think you know how to do it better than the next guy, the guy ahead of you. Learn your position. You're responsible for positional knowledge, for honesty, and for growth in the organization. You're responsible to learn everything about everything associated with your position. And then learn to do the things that don't work after you've learned what to do. Rob O'Neill, who was credited with taking out Osama bin Laden, said they trained and they trained and they trained on what to do. And then once they learned that, they trained on what to do if that didn't work. That's what we have to do. Learn about every piece of equipment on your assigned vehicle, and then start working on what's needed to acquire the next position. You are responsible to say, I don't know, when you don't know. See, it's a culture in the fire service and many other places that, and this is really important for young recruits, because when you go on shift, somebody's going to ask you, do you know how to do this? And you know what your answer is going to be? Regardless of whether you know how or not, because we create a culture of embarrassment sometimes. But you're responsible to say, I don't know, when you don't know. it's very easy to get caught up in the firehouse life once you go on shift. And once you do that, and you forget that you're young, and you're young in the service, you need to stay on top of your training and what you've learned. And this is a story I tell on myself. I got caught up in the culture of watching TV at night. I've never played a game of checkers in my life, and firemen always accuse of that. Playing cards, spades, those kinds of things. And you begin to fall into that, and you forget that you need to stay on top of what you've learned. One of the calls I went to was an electrical box on fire inside of a house. The captain, one of those names I gave you a while ago, said, go out to the truck and get me a CO2 fire extinguisher. And when I walked out to the back of the truck, there was an extinguisher on this side. Joe, you remember? An extinguisher on this side. And I stood there and looked at them, and I didn't know the difference in what they were. So I did have sense enough to carry both of them. Can you imagine what I caught after that? But it taught me a lesson. And it taught me the lesson was to learn what my job responsibilities were as a firefighter and to know every piece of equipment that's on that vehicle. Very important that you remember that. Passion is the second thing I'll talk to you about. It's something that you choose to have, just like you choose how you're going to act when you get up in the mornings. You can be passionate about anything. There'll be an excitement in the very first call that you run as a firefighter that you'll have that I don't want you to ever forget, because you need to carry that throughout your career. See, passion doesn't mean that you like everything that happens in the organization, but it does mean that you pour everything you are into it. Now, I'm going to say this because some of the people in here tonight know me and know my wife. So I'm going to say it like this. Look, my wife loves me, but she don't like everything I do. You can love something, like I'm going to say that you need to love the fire service, but there may be some things sometimes you don't like about it. That don't mean you just discard it. It means that you work harder to make it better. To those you work with, they're going to see the amount of passion that you have, or lack thereof. And there are a couple of ways that you can show that passion. You do know you can show it in a positive or a negative way, right? So let's call this passion by example. You can be an encourager, or you can be a grumbler. There's a story of two men. They had been working outside, and they lay down beside an old oak tree. And one guy said, I never will understand why the Lord took this big old oak tree with all this big trunk and this majestic limbs on it, and he put a little old acorn on the end of it. And then you look over here, this watermelon field, and there's a great big watermelon on a vine this big. In just a few minutes, the acorn fell off and hit the guy in the head. And he said, that's why the Lord did it like he did. So you don't always have to figure out the logic of something. You just have to understand that there is a logic behind it. You can support or you can tear down. You can be passionate about either one. I'm saying to you, support. You can insist that the training continues until you and your crew get it right. Because you got to remember that other person over there may be saying, well, I'm not quite sure about that either. So make sure the whole crew knows what's going on. Now, can you name the first name that I named off for you? Charles Ellis. I'm going to tell you some quick stories about those four guys and the passion that they had for the fire service. Chief Ellis was my first supervisor. His wife had arthritis. He had mauled. In fact, his daughter worked here at Nash Community for a long time. At 9 o'clock in the morning after he retired, and 3 o'clock every afternoon, he'd come to the firehouse and have a cup of coffee. He knew how to get to the firehouse. As time grew on, he had Alzheimer's. and he couldn't get back to his house on occasion. So we tried to make sure somebody was watching him when he left so he'd make sure he got back home. But he always knew how to get to the fire station. And he never forgot that. And the day that he was one of the most encouraging men I've ever met. Country Neil was retired when I came to work at the fire department. One Saturday afternoon, upstairs at headquarters, Joe, you and John remember, there was a common shower area. And it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I went up to my locker to get something. I hear the shower running. It's kind of odd on Saturday afternoon to hear the shower running at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the fire station. So I kind of walked around the corner, and there stood this man drying off, and he was about 80 years old. And I walked downstairs and said, "Hey, there's about an 80-year-old man up there in the shower." They said, "Yeah, that's Country Neil." I don't know if he got a shower any other day, but he got one on Saturday afternoons at 3 o'clock because he came to the firehouse. These are not morbid stories, but they're stories of passion. When he came, before he had a knee surgery, he went around to every station we had. We had 4 stations at the time. And he went into every station. He told everybody in the station, "I want to tell you how much of a privilege it's been to work with each one of you and to be a member of the Rocky Mount Fire Department." He went in for his knee surgery, never came out, got an infection, passed away. But the last thing that we know he did before he went in the hospital was come to the fire stations. Pete Perry was the second name. He was my engine company captain. He always did this when we had a fire. He'd always do this. That meant 1.5 inches. We all knew his sign language. He worked 30 years. He retired. He went home. Excuse me. He had a brain cancer. His wife asked me to come sit with him one night. So I go in his house. He's in a hospital bed. He's not speaking. But you know what he's doing? He's doing this. I have no clue what he was thinking. He couldn't tell me. But I have all ideas. He had fire service in his mind. And Billy Soden was the last one. He was our fire prevention director for many, many years. He played Sparky a lot back in the day. And he always carried fire prevention pamphlets in his back pocket. He and his wife Hilda, very special to many of us in the fire service. They didn't have any children, so they adopted a lot of us as theirs. I went to see him in the hospital, and his wife said, "I don't know what he's doing, but he was laying in the bed doing this." Kept reaching back here in the back. I said, "I know exactly what he's doing. He's reaching for those fire prevention brochures." So the last thing I know was on his mind was the fire service. Passionate people, encouragers, supporters. They insisted that things be done right. See, this is not about you, and it's not about me. It's about those people that we serve. And we're going to get out of it what we put into it. Keep that same feeling on the very first call you go on for the rest of your career. See, there's not many people that can say, "I've been blessed man," because I get to say, I enjoyed the last day as much as I did the first day. And when you can say that about a career over 32 and 46 years, that's a true blessing. So listen to me when I say this to you. None of us are God's gift to the fire service, but the fire service is God's gift to us. So let me pray for you. Father, I do thank you for all the opportunities that you give us. I'm grateful, Lord, for the time and the effort and the hard work that these young people have put into this training period that they've had. I ask, Lord, that you continue to guide them, to protect them in all that they do. And Lord, as they leave the stations on calls and perform duties for those of us who are dependent on them, I pray, Lord, that you would just remind them of their responsibilities, that they are our line of defense in so many different areas. And they respond to so many different emergencies. So protect them, be with their families, be with their loved ones. And we ask, Lord, that you just continue to bless us with your grace and mercy. And I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Wow. Thank you, Chief Mullen. I really appreciate that. It's an honor to have you here tonight. Chief Mullen gave me my start as a career firefighter a good while ago. And it's kind of funny, you know, I was sitting there listening to the stuff he said, and when he was still there, he was the fire chief, so I never worked directly for him. And to be honest, I tried to stay away from him. You know, I tried to stay out of the chief's office. But if you ask these people sitting here, I spent a fair amount of time talking about a lot of those same things. So apparently, the people that Chief Mullen had worked for and worked with and taught passed a lot of that on to me. And I truly believe it, and I appreciate all your words. All right. It's about that time. I want to tell you all a little bit about this program. This Fire Academy is among one of the most rigorous intensive training programs in the fire service. You can ask just about anybody. This program is not known to be easy. There are other academies out there, and I'm not knocking anybody else's program, but this one is tough. They've learned the importance of instant obedience to orders, safety in an inherently unsafe career, importance of a firefighter's code of conduct, as well as the role stress plays on decision-making and the safe performance of a firefighter's duties. This career, although very rewarding, is among the most physical and mentally demanding, probably more so mentally demanding. This badge pinning ceremony may not seem like much, but it is the light at the end of the tunnel when you're going through a lot of those tough times. It's the highlight of many firefighters' careers. These students are graduating a very tough entry-level firefighter program. And just as you are, I'm very proud of everything they've endured and accomplished. So, without further ado, at this time, I'd like to call Mr. Chandler Bryant. Mr. Bryant is going to be penned by his father, Colonel Joel Bryant of the U.S. Army. Next, I'd like to call Mr. Ryan Horner. And he's going to be penned by his mother, Miss Macy Horner. Look, I've got stories about just about every student in this class, but I do want to stop for a minute and just tell one little quick thing about Mr. Horner. I don't know if any of your parents ever told you, you keep making that face, your face gonna freeze like that when you were a kid. Anybody ever get told that? Well, apparently, he smiled a lot as a kid. Because throughout this whole process, I don't recall ever seeing a frown on his face one time. And although it irritated me to death when I was trying to get a point across, I'm glad he carries that smile most of the time. Next, I'd like to call Mr. Gavin Moore. He's going to be penned by his mother and father, Bryant and Patrice Moore. And next, I'd like to call Mr. Jackson Neal, and Mr. Neal is going to be penned by his girlfriend, Leanne Bunn. Next, I'd like to call Mr. Blake Rook. His first name's Taylor. It's in the program, but he doesn't like that. So. He's going to be penned by his grandmother, Miss Eula Taylor. Next, I'd like to call Mr. Zachary Sampson. He usually goes by Zach. He's going to be penned by his father, Herman Sampson.
Very proud of you, son.
Next, I'd like to call Mr. Braden Wood. And he's going to be penned by his father, Lieutenant Keith Wood of Nash County 911. All right, let's give a big round of applause to the graduates. Now let's talk about some special awards. Each recruit firefighter's written test scores are averaged cumulatively during the recruit firefighter training program. This average is used to determine the recruit firefighter who attains the highest academic average. The firefighter with the highest average is recognized at graduation ceremonies by receiving the academic award. They've been waiting for this answer for quite a while. But before I give that, I do want to give a little information leading up to it. The top three averages in the class were 89.6, 90.5, and 90.6. At this time, I'd like to call Firefighter Chandler Bryant. That was a great job for all three of you at the top, especially you, Mr. Wood, with a 90.6 or 90.5, and Mr. Horner with a 89.6. Great job. Our next award is called the Flame Award, and it's awarded to the recruit firefighter who's the most outstanding, based upon overall accomplishments. It's not just academics, it's not just skills. A lot of times it's just attitude. This is a vote done by his classmates. When casting the vote, they're supposed to look at their honor, their teamwork, their fellowship, their enthusiasm and cooperation demonstrated throughout the academy, not just for bits and pieces of it. Again, like I said, it's awarded by majority vote, and it gives me great pleasure to present this award to Firefighter Chandler Bryant. Our last special award is the Award for Instructional Excellence. It's voted on by the recruit class also, and it's awarded to the instructor who the class feels is the most influential throughout their training. To be considered for this award, the instructor must be approachable and easy to talk to, serve as a mentor and motivator to the class, display a strong dedication to training, and greatly expand on the material found in the textbook. Aside from that, and a lot of people don't realize this, a lot of times the people that get these awards aren't necessarily the people that spent the most time with them teaching. It's the people that stopped by to see how they were doing on their way home from work. It's the people that called to check on them. It's the people that encouraged them to stop by a station and get help. It's my privilege to present that award to Fire Captain Chad Spruill. Two classes running. Every graduation ceremony, as I sit and I listen to the speaker and I watch the looks on people's faces and things like that, I kind of make a few notes, and there's always a few things I'd like to add that I think are important. I think everybody should understand. First of all, there's 7 students sitting here that completed the program and graduated. We started with 14. Once upon a time, my first class that I ran here when I came here in 2011, we had 21 students. We graduated 16. There were many classes before that, before I came here, and when Rocky Mount was running their own program, that we could graduate most of the students. A lot of that has to do with attitude and mental toughness. And there's a lot of people today that just don't have that servant mentality and that attitude of toughness and that feeling of putting other people before them. And I'd like to encourage you all, those of you that are graduating, to go out and tell people about how proud you are of what you've done. Tell people how great it is to serve other people. I'd like to encourage you all to talk to people you know and encourage them to step up and serve, both as volunteer or career firefighter. Your communities need you. The volunteer fire service is shrinking. It's shrinking every day. I think the last numbers I saw were losing about 600 volunteers a year. And I think the last numbers were 68% of the fire service in North Carolina is volunteer. The career fire departments are hurting. They're hurting for good quality applicants. They're hurting for people to apply that's got that passion, that's got that desire, that drive, that grit. So please go out and spread the word. Ask people to get involved when they're young. Figure out what they have to do. Again, develop that passion. They don't have to be your greatest kids in the world. God knows if you had any of my teachers here, they'd tell you that I was not one of their favorite students in high school. The truth of the matter is a lot of those people, when they get put in the right environment, they do really well. They thrive. So it doesn't matter who it is. Send them to us. Send them to their local fire department. Send them to me. Send them to somebody to talk to them, and let's see if we can get them involved. life at the firehouse, we spent a lot of time talking during the academy. You can ask these guys in the mornings. A lot of times I'll bring up controversial issues just to stir conversation. You spend 24 hours at a time at a fire station. And it is good when you really do think of those people as your brothers and sisters. I've got a brother and a sister. I don't know about anybody else, but I haven't always got along with them. We've argued. We've literally had fist fights. But when we get done with it, I still love my brother and sister, and I still wouldn't let anybody else bother them. It's kind of the same mentality. And I bring this up because in the environment that we have today with so much politics being talked about and so much controversy and so much back and forth and picking sides, the firehouse isn't a place for that. You show up, you go to the firehouse, and your job is to serve the public. You don't always have to get along. You can disagree. That's okay. There's nothing, fortunately, we live in a place where that's acceptable. But you do have to put all your personal differences aside when it comes to serving the public. Chief Mullen was talking about turret teams, swift water teams, all that. I use an analogy a lot of times talking to him about if a UFO crashed in the field out there. We're going, and the public is going to look to the fire service. This is not knocking any other branch of emergency services, but the public is going to look to the fire service to make it better in some way. I don't know what that way is, but in some way we're going to be expected to make it better. So I would encourage you to always leave it better than you found it. Whatever it is. You've earned that badge that you have on your chest right now. You've earned those firefighter certifications, the TR certifications. But that's all you've earned, is what you've done up till now. Everything after this, you still have to earn. Don't ever think that you're entitled to something. You're not. I don't remember getting a trophy when I was born. I've never seen one sitting on my mama's mantle from when I was born. Work, keep working, work hard. If you don't like something that somebody's doing in front of you, work hard, do really well at your job, and move up to the next spot so you can affect some better change. Leave it better than you found it. Last thing I want to talk about is respect. Respect for the profession, respect for the people that you work with. Even if you don't like them, or even if you don't always get along with them, respect what they do. Respect the passion that they have in it. And Chief Mullen brought up Chief Ellis. And I remember when I was working at Rocky Mount Fire Department, Chief Ellis had retired. But he used to come to the fire station and get ice. He used to come to Station 6 and get ice. And I asked, I believe I was working with Chief Roop at the time, and I asked him who that was. He told me who it was. And every time he would come to get ice, before he opened the ice machine, he would go to the captain's office and ask for permission to get a couple scoops of ice. Because that was what was always expected when he worked there, and that's what he continued to do, because it was respect. It was just a simple sign of respect. He just asked for permission for a couple of scoops of ice. And like Chief Mullen said, his daughter worked here for quite a while. And there's after Chief Ellis died, and he had 2 pictures hanging on his wall of all the fire apparatus from Rocky Mountain, all the stations. And she came and she put plaques on. She asked him, would we be willing to put him in the fire classroom, because she couldn't think of anywhere else he'd rather him be. So they're hanging over there right now with little plaques on them for Chief Ellis. Remember those things. Have respect, have some pride, be proud of your accomplishments, but don't think you're done. You're not. Class 072919, fall in. Retire your colors. You're secured from training. Fall out.